Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a review of a thriller from Australia, English language, released in the year 2014, directed by Kelly Dolan, and this film is called Doe Vigilante. So the story of Doe Vigilante, this guy is the main character. He has been caught by the police and now he is in the hands of an investigative journalist who is interviewing him. Now the reason why the public are so behind Doe is because he has been picking off 30 plus victims that were pedophiles, murderers, rapists, all those, the scum of the earth. Doe was picking off. So for that reason, the public have a strong support of this guy because they have no faith in the legal system anymore, because they just continuously let these guys off with a warning. So Doe decided to take it into his own hands. He has been caught, as I said, and he's telling this investigative journalist his motives, why he is doing this, and along the way you get a few twists and turns that indicate something a lot more deeper. And so right at the end, the public are furious that they're going to convict this guy, and it all adds up to a very thrilling climax. So to prevent myself from giving away too much, if you want to know how the movie unfolds, please go out there and see this film for yourself. Now my thoughts on Doe Vigilante. I was very, very impressed with this film. Now yes, it does have flaws in its filmmaking, but I thought the message was very, very strong, and I can see why this movie is the most controversial film in Australia since Romper Stomper, because it's basically taking a shot at our legal system. Now I don't know how the legal system is in other countries, but here in Australia we seem to let these pedophiles, rapists, they seem to get very light sentences. So the public are constantly outraged at the law system because we're saying to them, why are we giving these scum of the earth such light sentences, just a slap on the wrist? And it feels like justice has not been served. So this movie, it depicts that, but it does take a guy who has taken the law into his own hands. He's picking off these scumbags who don't deserve to be out in the public, and he's killing them. So on one hand, you can appreciate what Doe is doing because he is making the streets a safer place, but on the other hand, he's breaking the law. So that is the topic of discussion. Basically, you're going to be thinking to yourself, is this guy a serial killer, or is he doing something for basically the freedom of justice? And that is a constant sort of thought that you have throughout the entire movie because of the way that the movie has been made. So most of the movie is an interview between Doe and the investigative journalist, then it cuts out to what Doe has been doing, the murder victims and the way he's dispatched his victims, then it goes back into the interview. And I thought the interview was the most solid part of the movie. So basically you will be asking yourself, yes, this guy is picking off these horrible people, and should this be allowed? The legal system is failing us constantly, so is it such a bad thing that Doe is doing these things to these people who are just going to re-offend time and time again because of the basically the incompetent law system that we have? So I can understand, as I said, I understand why this is such a controversial film, but I think it's a very important film because it does outline very real problems here in Australia. As I said, the law system is inadequate, it's inept, and I just think that it's a shame because if it wasn't for, in the movie, if it wasn't for the lack of quality in the law system, then Doe wouldn't have existed. So who do you blame in the end? Do you blame the law system or do you blame Doe? And that's why you feel so, you contradict yourself time and time again, because on one hand you feel that Doe is a really good guy, and then you see the way that he dispatches his victims in a very brutal way. So you get a moment of fear in this guy. And so, as I said, you just keep bouncing forward, back and forth, supporting him, not supporting him, supporting him, not supporting him. And so it just leaves a very uncertain sort of feeling, and it's going to create a big discussion at the end of the film. And so I just think that this is a very unique way that the movie has been made. It's a very brave film, and for that I really have to give it credit. Now the acting was very good, especially from Doe, the main character. The investigative journalist is pretty well known here in Australian television. I thought he played a very different character and he did his job very well as well. The supporting cast were pretty decent. There were some moments that really didn't work as far as acting is concerned, but you can tell that it is a low budget film, so I'm not going to give too much criticism there. I thought the cinematography was excellent. It's a very dark film. It's taking on a very dark subject, and I thought the way that the movie had, the atmosphere that it had, did the overall mood justice. It's a very brutal film, so be very careful. It might be MA 15+, but don't let that fool you, because this is worse than some R18 films. So this is the inconsistencies in the classification system here in Australia. So just be very careful coming into Doe, because there are some very graphic scenes of violence and very disturbing scenes as well. So everything in the film, everybody seems like they've got a filthy secret. There is no real good guy. As I said, you can make your own interpretation up as to who the good guy is. Do you blame the law system? Do you blame Doe? You don't know. It's just constant back and forth, and there's just a lot of contradictions in there that were very well placed, and I thought just made the film what it was. Now there were some problems with the movie. I thought there were moments, especially when they were reporting these crimes, you know, the whole country was enthralled by this John Doe. But the way that they, you know, the way that they betrayed the news, I thought was very unrealistic. And although the movie wanted to have a realistic approach, but when you see certain things in the film, you think to yourself, that's taken me out of the realms of possibility, and it just doesn't really fit. It feels like it's kind of two different films in some areas. Thankfully, you know, it doesn't derail the film, because overall the positives outweigh the negatives, but there were just unrealistic qualities to it that really could have been tinkered with a little bit to make it a much more realistic sort of portrayal. And it didn't really need that unrealistic approach. It could have just done it in a much you know, more sensible way. But I think that there is, here and there, it does get caught up in theatrics. It gets caught up in the Hollywood style of approach, where it has to have twists. Now, there are two twists in the film. One of them works, one of the other ones felt very unnecessary, and it did feel very mainstream Hollywood. It felt like the twist was there just to have the twist. And so, as I said, on one hand, you've got a very thought-provoking film, but on the other hand, you've got a film that felt very theatrical for the sake of being theatrical. That every movie these days have to have a twist, and I just thought it was very unnecessary for John Doe Vigilante, because it is a very good film. Would have been a lot better if they just cut, you know, the silliness out of it a little bit. But having said that, it is still a film that I would highly recommend if you're out there looking for a movie that does touch on a very touchy subject, and one that will have you thinking long and hard after the end. So whether or not John Doe is a good guy or bad guy, I'm going to leave that up to you to make your own mind up about that. And so yeah, this is definitely coming highly recommended. I'm going to give John Doe Vigilante 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.